Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb,
And I'm Dad.
and we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad,
Yes.
going.
It's going okay. It's going okay. I,
Yeah,
I,
we just got to spend time together this past weekend.
yes, we did. But it was when we weren't together that I thought that you were playing a trick on me or something.
What happened?
Well, I flew from West Palm Beach, Florida, to Charleston, South Carolina. And because I'm very frugal, there was no nonstop flight. So a layover in I took a layover in Philadelphia.
So you flew from Florida to Philadelphia to get to Charleston, South Carolina.
Yes, I did. but
I sure hope that flight was less than $20.
but that wasn't the problem, Swebb. The problem was this. So I get on the plane in West Palm Beach and I fly to Philadelphia. By the time the plane got there, my flight for in Philadelphia for Charleston was boarding. So I had to run to the gate, through the airport to the gate.
So you ran through the Philadelphia airport.
Well, I walked briskly. Let's put it that way.
So your brisk is about a very slow walk for most people.
So when I got there, I was standing behind this lady. I didn't know what group had boarded yet. So I said to the lady that was standing in front of me, she was probably about 50 years old. I said to her, what group are they in? Oh, I was in group 6. She said they grew up to group 4. I said, okay, good. She said, would you like to get ahead of me? You know, age before beauty. And I'm looking at this, I'm looking at this lady, age before beauty. She was trying to offer me a spot in front of her. So we get on the plane. I said, no, ma'am, that's okay. You go ahead. I'll be right behind you.
So your ego was bruised and you were huffing and puffing.
Yes. So I get on the plane and they had announced it's a full flight. So find your seat and sit down. So I had an aisle seat and there was a gentleman to my right on the window seat and there was an empty seat in between us. Now, I remember last week when you told me this. You've traveled with me. You know the way I like to kind of spread out in the seat, Swebb. Now I got to worry for 2.5 hours. I got to worry about, I got to squinch up. I don't want to touch this guy and wake this guy up. I don't want to wake the lady up. And, it's crazy, Swebb.
Did you ever think that people are saying, oh boy, when you walk down the aisle of a plane
Why would they say
with
that?
your big behind and you get the middle seat? Do you ever think that people are worried about you? Oh, here comes this big guy who's going to be encroaching on my space.
No,
Did you
because
ever think of that?
I never thought I don't look at things that way, Swebb. I was in
Maybe
this
it's time to take a look in the mirror, my friend.
I was in the seat first before they got on the plane. But you
And you
really
know what? We've all been there where we're like, is that my row? Or is that, oh, I hope that's not my row. Oh man, that's my row. It can go both ways.
do you think people really think that when I'm walking on a plane?
Yes.
Oh God. So now, um, there's an empty seat, and it seemed like everybody had gotten on the plane. So he looks at me, and I look at him, and he says, "I guess we lucked out." And then all of a sudden, through the doors, came this giant of a man in a Philadelphia Eagles jersey. He looked like he was on the team, and he started walking down the aisle. And the man sitting next to me, we looked at each other, and we turned back, and we looked, and we turned back. He says, we thought our seat was the last seat. And all of a sudden, that gentleman in the football jersey made a left turn into a seat up a few rows in front of us. And we looked at each other and he said to me, I guess we made it. We and he said to me, there's always one guy like that. You're always hoping that he's not sitting next to you. And I cracked up. I said, I've heard that before.
Well, before you sat in your seat, there were probably people thinking the same thing. And then luckily, there was no one in between you because that poor soul would have been squished.
Well, that wasn't the end of it. So we get there, and I had my bag up above, my suitcase up above. So, gentleman next to me on the other side, he says to me, "Sir, would you like me to get your bag down?" And I said, "No, I got it." He says, "Well, I know it's kind of heavy." I said, "Oh my, no, I got my bag." I'm usually the one helping ladies to get their bags down. And this guy's offering to get me a bag down. So I got the lady telling me that age before beauty to get on the flight. We, I don't know how we got away with not having this big football player look like a defensive lineman sit in between us. And then I got this dude telling me, "I'll get your bag down for you, sir."
So, what is the lesson here?
The lesson is I'm going out this week and getting a black wig because I got to cover up this gray. That's the lesson. Okay. I'm going to find
Don't be one
myself.
of those guys that dyes your hair when you
No,
dye white hair and it turns orange.
no, I'm not doing that. I know. I've seen guys like that. I'm not doing that. I'm going to get a black wig.
We've probably had a few family members or aunts, uncles, people from church who dyed their white hair and it turned orange. So you're going with the black wig instead of the hair dye.
I've seen that. And when all else fails, you got to razzle dazzle them, Swebb.
Thank goodness there are no ice cubes in there. I know how you like to clank around. It's bad enough that you're hitting the desk every five
No, that's
minutes.
coffee. That's coffee, Swebb.
Well, yes. Good. So you'll be awake for the whole
Yes,
episode.
that's why I got a cup of coffee. I want to drift away.
Well, I'm glad that you got exercise in the Philadelphia airport. It seems like you had to move at a swifter pace than you normally go at. So this is good. We're getting exercise anyway. We'll take it.
Yeah, and that Baltimore Washington airport is pretty a lot of walking there too. I took that from Charleston back to New York. I
You know how
stopped
you
in there.
prepare for this?
How?
One, you get direct flights moving forward. And two, you just start walking around the block. And then when you're in
Yeah.
the airport, it'll feel a lot easier. It's like this morning, I went for a run and I wasn't feeling great, but I know in a few weeks after I do runs every morning, I'll start to feel better.
Run before
Take a
work.
page out of my book.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Run before work.
Yes, we've got to stay in shape somehow.
Oh man, I'll pass.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you made it safely back to New York. We did get to spend some time together during the weekend. Um, you were, you weren't too annoying this time, so we had a great weekend. Um, Now let's talk a little college football because we were together, but we flew back on Saturday, and Michigan had a tough time with Arkansas State. They end up winning, what was it, 28-18. That's a game that they should win more handily, but Davis Warren, who was the starting quarterback,
Mm.
threw for 3 interceptions. So Michigan decided this week that they're going to make a change to Alex Orgy for just in time for Saturday against USC, the number
Ugh.
11 team in the country. Dad, what's going on with Michigan?
We have quarterback problems, Swebb. We have
Well,
quarterback
you don't
problems.
even really have quarterback problems. You just don't have a quarterback. Like, it's hard to have problems when you don't actually have a quarterback. I looked at the roster today just because I was thinking, I saw that Michigan was going to change up their quarterback. They're going to go with Orgy, who did play a little bit, had some snaps last year, but was more used to kind of change up the offense and really not even pass the ball. He was just used to run the ball. So I looked at the roster, and Michigan has about 5 guys on the roster, and I went to each one's bio. I'm like, how do they end up with no quarterbacks? Orgy was a 4-star quarterback out of high school. For those who are not familiar with college football rankings, high school players, when they come out of high school and they're recruited by a team in any sport, they get a star, 1 out of 5. 5 is the best. Usually big time schools, Michigan in the past, Alabama, Texas, they have a roster full of 5-star or sometimes a few 4-star recruits from their high school playing. Michigan, not so much at the quarterback position. We've got a few. Davis Warren obviously was a former walk-on to the team. You've got a JUCO junior college transfer. What is happening at the quarterback position, and how did it get this bad?
It got this bad because Jim Harbaugh, for the last 3 years, every year there was always rumors that he was going to leave, go to the NFL. And it was always back and forth with the athletic director, whether he was going to stay or not. And when you have that much indecision, other high school kids, the real top high school kids, don't want to sign on with you. So they went a few years, didn't recruit that many guys. They won last year because they had a lot of 4 and 5 year players, and they had so much talent they couldn't be beat. But a lot of those guys left, graduated and left. So now we're stuck, and we don't have a good quarterback. Now they recruited a good quarterback from Charlotte, North Carolina, but he's probably not ready yet. He's a freshman, and he's not ready. And they have
Well,
another good quarterback coming in next year. But these freshman quarterbacks, usually it takes a year. They got to sit.
it usually does
JJ
take some
McCarthy
time.
pretty much sat for the first year and kind of learned. He just came in. This now OG, he's a good runner, a dynamic runner, but he doesn't pass. He's not a good passer. So against good teams, they're going to play 7 guys in the box, 8 guys in the box because they don't have to worry about him throwing the ball down the field, and then it messes up your running game. That's
So
the problem.
it might be a long Saturday for you. Now, one thing that I love about the Miami Hurricanes, besides the fact that they're phenomenal this year, is that they do actually hit the transfer portal pretty well. And we ended up with the best quarterback available through the transfer portal, Cam Ward from Washington State. Now he is having, and he'll give you some razzle dazzle, Dad. Uh, the Miami Hurricanes end up beating Ball State 62-0. Cam Ward throws for what did he throw for? 346 yards, 5 touchdowns. So a tale of two different teams. Miami historically has not had good quarterbacks, among other issues, but
Right.
this year, Cam Ward is definitely placing himself in the Heisman Trophy conversation. I know it's still early in the season, but the way that Miami is looking, it's been a long, long, long time since I've seen Miami blow out teams. Now, Ball State is not a team that should give Miami problems, but these are the types of games. And Michigan, on a good year or with the team that they had last year against Arkansas State, would have a similar type of score. They would blow out the team. They should never beat a team like Arkansas State by just 10 points. So Miami goes to USF, University of South Florida, on Saturday, and right now their schedule looks great. The toughest team that they'll probably play this season is Louisville, but other than that, Florida State loses again this past weekend. I don't want to get too excited, but I like what I'm seeing. Miami's back.
No, you guys have a real good team. They better not mess it up. They're in good shape. You got a great quarterback. You got a real good offensive line, real good defensive line. You got running backs. You got wide receivers. You got tight ends. You got it all. All you got to do is just stay focused and don't do dumb stuff.
Take it game by game. Let's not get ahead of ourselves here. We're just going to, try and go out, put out the best performance every weekend. And if we do that, we should end up going into postseason play with 0 losses. So, game by game, don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but the schedule for Miami is very favorable as opposed to Michigan, who, once again, as I mentioned, is playing USC on Saturday, which is a conference game now.
And we got Oregon on the schedule. We got Washington on the schedule, and then Ohio State
You've got Ohio State.
at Ohio
Right.
State.
So let's talk some NFL. The Jets on Sunday looked great. It feels good to watch a game where you have a quarterback who knows how to manage the game. He's not Aaron Rodgers, obviously. He's 40 years old. He's a former league MVP. He's going to be great. He's not going to light up teams anymore for 300 to 400 yards a game, but he can still manage the game and make passes, quite frankly, that I haven't seen in years
I'll say.
watching Jets games. So Aaron Rodgers, the Jets beat the Tennessee Titans 24-17 on Sunday. Aaron Rodgers throws for 8 goes 18 for 30 in passing, 2 touchdowns for 176 yards. But the real story here is that Brees Hall had 114 total yards, both rushing and receiving, and 1 receiving touchdown. And Braylon Allen had 1 touchdown, 1 reception, receiving TD and 1 rushing TD. So Aaron Rodgers is really finding and spreading out the offense and really finding his running backs and receivers.
Yeah, they look real good. The offensive line is greatly improved. The last 3 years they didn't even have an offensive line. That offensive line was horrible. Okay, now they have a pretty good offensive line. They can open holes and also protect the passer. And he has a number of offensive weapons. He has 2 running backs that he can throw the ball to. He has multiple wide receivers and tight ends he can throw the ball to. And you have a quarterback that knows what he's doing. He can make great make great throws in clutch situations. In that last drive when they went down the field to win the game, he went 5 for 5 and made some tremendous throws, and there was some tremendous catches. And
And the
Allen, the
defense
running back,
certainly had a better showing.
yeah, the defense, they had a few key injuries to the defense that might hurt over the long haul. But on Sunday, the defense played well, and a first round pick from last year, defensive end, he came up big and had 3 sacks.
The defense now, unfortunately, the only negative coming out of the game is that Jermaine Johnson, defensive end, is out with a torn Achilles. But as you mentioned, the defense certainly looked better than they did against San Francisco. Now they have a tough schedule. These first 3 weeks of the season, they're playing 3 games in 11 days.
That's
So
crazy.
Thursday they'll host the Patriots on Thursday night. So they had the Thursday night game. What was it? Was it a Monday night game and then the
Yeah,
Sunday
it was a
game and
Monday
then a
night game.
Thursday?
It was a Monday night game on the West Coast in California. Then they had to fly back to New York, and then on Monday night late, they didn't get in until Tuesday morning. Then they had to get ready and play a game on Sunday, and then now in Tennessee, then they had to fly home Sunday night, get ready, and play a game on Thursday night back at home.
So they're starting the
Three
season with
games in
two.
11 days, which is
Right.
crazy.
Which is tough. Certainly a torn Achilles will take you out for the whole season, but very tough to prepare both mentally and physically, and with from a recovery standpoint, to have short weeks to start the season. But I like the fact that we have a quarterback in Aaron Rodgers who is making plays that, quite frankly, we just have not seen from Jets quarterbacks in, gosh, it's been a long
Let's
time. It might
yeah,
have been since like Vinny Testaverde.
yeah. That was for one season. And before
Right.
that it was Joe Namath.
Right.
Oh
Because we know that
man.
Chad Pennington wasn't making passes like that.
He was pretty decent, but then he was always hurt.
Right.
Uh,
So the Jets had a great week and obviously the short week on Thursday. So we'll see how they play against the Patriots. And then the Giants. The Giants are scuffling out the gate here. They lose to the Washington Commanders 21-18. It's
they
going to be tough this year for the Giants fans.
their quarterback Jones played a little better this Sunday, but not having the running game, not having Barkley, that kills them. You got to have some playmakers on offense. That kills them.
And they'll head to Cleveland for a game on Sunday.
That's another tough game. That's another
Right.
tough game, and on the road, no less. Cleveland's pretty good. They got beat up by Dallas Cowboys the first week, and then they flipped this chart and won last night. So
It's interesting. This week was I'm in a pick'em league where you have to pick one winner for each game, and the first week I went 13 for 16. So out of the 16 games, I got 13 right. This week, now we're recording on Monday night, so the Monday night football game hasn't started, but I've only got 8 out of the 15 games right, and everyone in my league also struggled. I think there were some blowouts. The Cowboys got blown out this past week. There were a few losses. San Francisco, I know that they didn't have uh, uh, the running back McCaffrey, but there were some surprise results this week. I think noted the Kansas City Chiefs loss. I don't think any team's going to run away with it this season,
The
from
Chiefs
what I'm seeing.
the Chiefs won at a field goal with no time left on the clock.
You know what? They did win. You're right.
Right. The Chiefs won. They beat the Bengals.
Yes.
They'll make your uncle real happy. They won right at the buzzer. Um, it seems
I
like
think I had dreams of them losing because they had Taylor Swift on the screen every 5 minutes.
they they pulled it out with no time left on the clock on a 51-yard field goal. It's they always do enough, and they have a quarterback that can move the team down the field. And they did get a little lucky break on a controversial penalty, um, and that was it. That was it. That's how the Chiefs roll. And they're going to be better than they were last year. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl, but they're going to be better than they were last year because last year they won the Super Bowl with a young team, and a lot of those young players got experience, and they had a real draft, and they know how to draft and assimilate guys and develop guys and assimilate guys into the lineup. They're
They
smarter than
certainly
every,
know how to find a way,
and they have a great quarterback. They have the best quarterback in the league.
and a great coach.
Yeah, well, yeah, and a great coach. It's like familiar to what the Patriots did for all those years. Great quarterback, assimilate players in, and great coaching. Amazing how that works.
It's a good formula. So let's talk some baseball.
Yes, let's do it.
Now we've got a few weeks left of the season. The Yankees currently are 3 games up in the AL East, ahead of the Baltimore Orioles, and they're 87 and 63. They just came off of a series with the Red Sox. Um, they'll they're in Seattle at the start of this week on Tuesday. Dad, what are your thoughts in these last few weeks of the regular season? There are obviously some things we got to look out for. They've had some pitchers come back. I like what they're doing, where they had who's the Clark Schmidt has come back. And I think it was this past week, they had Nestor Cortez come out of the bullpen. They ended up teaming a game and pitching phenomenally. It seems like they've also got a closer in Luke Weaver. And, Aaron Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are continuing to do their thing. So, Dad, what's your take on the Yankees these past couple weeks of the season?
Well,
These next couple weeks of the season?
they're still not hitting like really hitting and scoring a lot of runs, but the pitching has been much better, and they got some of the relievers back off the disabled list that have helped Hamilton. Um, that has helped and brought in the bullpen. And then getting 2 starting pitchers back that were out back at Clark Schmidt missed 3 months, and he's come back and pitched well. And they're getting everything they need. That trade they made for Jazz Chisholm has really helped because he can do so many different things offensively and on the bases, and his defense has been good. And everything's going along good. They just got to keep grinding out games. They go on a tough road trip. Seattle's real good. They have real good starting pitching. They're going to face 3 real good starters for 3. And then they go to Oakland and for 3. So they can't like tank on this road trip. They got to grind out some wins. And then they come home for 3 against Baltimore and 3 against Pittsburgh to end the season. And Pittsburgh's
Now,
been up and down. They've had a lot of injuries in their starting rotation. That's why they've been inconsistent. And their hitting is going south. So we'll see what happens. Yankees just have to take one game at a time and grind out wins. That's it.
I can't believe there's only 2 weeks left. That went extremely fast. Let's talk the Mets. They're in second in the NL East behind the Philadelphia Phillies. Now they have a tough stretch here these last 2 weeks because they'll play Washington, who's not a good team, but then they'll go and play Philly at home, and then they'll head down to Atlanta and finish out the season with the Milwaukee Brewers. So, Dad,
Mm.
and it sounds like Lindor is on his way back.
No, he's going to be out for a few days. And remember at the beginning of the season, the first month in April, the Met fans were screaming about Lindor. They wanted to get rid of him. They wanted to hang him. They are horrible. He's this, he's that. Now he's in the conversation for MVP. He's carried this team. Now he's had some help with some other guys, but he has been the focal point, and he's in the conversation for National League MVP. That's why baseball is 162 games, 6 months. 6 months. You can't get crazy when your team isn't doing well for a certain period of time, or if your team is doing great for a certain period of time. It's 6 months, and cream always rises to the top. And like I said 6 months ago, he's one of the best players in the National League. And in baseball, lay off of the guy. Some of these players get off the poor starts in the cold weather in April, especially some of the Latin players. They don't play as well when the weather's real cold. So you just got to be patient and wait. What happened? This guy heats up and he's going crazy.
Well, he did leave the game earlier this weekend with a sore back. The MRI comes back clean, and the Mets are saying best case scenario is he comes back this early week against in the series against Washington. So they could have him back in the next few days.
Yeah, but they have another series against Philadelphia, then a series against Atlanta, which they're tied for second place, and the final wild card position. And then they got to play Milwaukee. So they have a tough time. So, but if the Mets get in the playoffs, they're going to be real tough because of their starting pitching. They have a few starters in a short series. They have like three starters that they can throw out there. They're going to give you a real good game. So,
So we talked some football, we talked baseball. What are you looking forward to this upcoming week, Dad?
the end of the baseball season winding up. College football's getting into the swing of things. Hopefully, Michigan can play a good game. They figure out something. They still have a pretty good defense. So get a few turnovers, short field, anything can happen. You know what I'm saying, Swebb?
Anything can happen. I'm also looking forward to obviously Miami continuing to play well this season. We'll see how things go. Man City will also, they have a Champions League game this week and they play Arsenal over the weekend. So they're off to a hot start. Erling Haaland is off to a very quick start, scoring goals seemingly every few minutes in matches. And some women's college volleyball. I actually there's a lot of the matches end up taking place in on Tuesday, Wednesday night, and then on Sunday afternoon. ESPN. I do have ESPN back. I didn't for a week. I didn't for about a week and a half, but DirecTV and Disney have resolved things. I will say that I also got an email from DirecTV over the week when I didn't have ESPN saying that they were raising the prices $8, which we predicted. So I am canceling that subscription soon as MSG and Yes Network launch their Gotham Sports Network. I'm not going to cancel it yet because we've got some Yankee games to watch, but I really wish that they would hurry up so that I can just stick it to DirecTV. But yes, I'm looking forward to some women's college volleyball. And then Wednesday, I'm going to tune into the Golden Bachelorette.
What's that?
This is essentially the show The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, where there's a female who's dating 25 guys and has to pick her suitor and falls in love with one man and gets engaged. The Golden Bachelorette, now you'd mentioned this age thing and how people have been saying that you're old. The Golden Bachelorette is an old lady trying to find love. So I'm looking forward to it. The last season of this was the Golden Bachelor. They got engaged, they got married on national television, and they broke up within months. We were hoping for a nice love story, thinking that
Okay.
older people would have a little bit better discernment, but it wasn't to be. So this time it starts on Wednesday. One of my friends is gonna come over and we're gonna watch it on Wednesdays, and we're going to hope for a better love story this time.
How old are these old ladies?
I don't know how old the Bachelorette is. She's probably in her 60s. I think everyone has to be like 55 or above. So some of her suitors are likely in their 60s and 70s. Usually there are some nice stories in here. There are some people who might be widowers, that they're stepping out there for the first time and trying to find love again, and so you start to root for these people because they've got this depth to their life stories that you just don't get in the regular thing when it's like some 23-year-old girl who says she wants to be married but she's like a social media influencer. Um, but it didn't work out the last time for the Golden Bachelor, so I'm hoping that it works out for the Golden Bachelorette.
And these
I'll
people,
keep you posted.
oh yeah, I can hardly wait. So these people date 25 people?
They date 25 people. They weed people out throughout the course of the show. Listen, it's not a good there aren't many success stories from the regular series of this, but it's something to do
Oh
that's
yeah.
not necessarily watching, my typical lineup of sports games.
Now you know why I watch sports all the time. How do you watch
You
this
might get
stuff?
into it. We could do this. We could watch it together and
Oh no,
and and
that's
keep
okay.
and
That's okay.
and recap it during our
I,
podcast.
Swebb, I couldn't watch this stuff. What are you kidding me?
You'd fall asleep, that's for sure. This might help with some of when you're up late at night and can't really sleep, or when you wake up too early because you've gone to sleep too early. Watch an episode of The Golden Bachelorette, and you might fall right back asleep.
That's okay. I'll pass.
All right. Well, do you want to leave us with a dad tip of the week?
Don't take Swebb's recommendations on TV programs. And always remember, give him the old Razzle Dazzle Swebb. That always
All right.
works.
Well, my tips would be, if you have a full head of white hair, don't dye it because it'll turn orange. And secondly, if you were affected by the DirecTV and Disney dispute, you can call to get a $30 credit back on your account. I will take it, and then I will cancel my account in a few weeks once the MSG Yes Network new sports channel starts. So those are my tips. I'm saving you money, and give the Golden Bachelorette a try.
And I'm gonna go out and see if I can find a black wig this week and change my look.
Well, we're getting close to Halloween, and so there are probably some old stores out there that are the spirit Halloween for the next month and a half, where you might be able to find a wig. Try there first.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channels, and share this episode with a friend. We will see you next week.
So long.
Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.